I'm Alex Galandris. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders of essDOCS. I also was a maritime lawyer for many years, qualified in the UK and the US before setting up essDOCS. And most recently, I also wear a couple of ICC hats. I've been a member of the advisory board for about 3 years, and I'm co-chair of the digitization group for the last year and a half. essDOCS focuses on providing paperless trade and trade finance solutions. For us, we look at that as IT and legal. We've talked a lot about legal today. I'll talk a little bit more about it. But also we talked about change management and project management. Change management is a big element in electronic documents. Understanding how to move and transition to paperless is incredibly important. We service we will hit 50,000 companies this month, which is a pretty exciting milestone for us. We have 3 prongs of solution. The first is secure electronic title documents. This is our DocX solution for document exchange. So that's electronic bills of lading, electronic warehouse warrants. So this is the solution that banks use for e-presentation under letters of credit or doc collections. But we also recognize that full digitization is difficult, and not everyone can immediately jump to end-to-end digital. So we have a number of solutions that we think of as transition or automation technologies. A number that have been used by banks. DocHub is a solution that aggregates data to draft documents, facilitates online approvals internally within an organization and across supply chains. And can manage all non-titled documents and transfer documents and data through the solution. We have a solution set called ADP, which facilitates automation of back-end bank processes. So this uses OCR and supervised machine learning to extract data, and then uses the same AI to automate intra-document checks, doc versus LC checks, compliance checks, sanction screening checks, and the like. We've just launched a replacement to the Swift TSU, which is called CMatch, and we have a solution for corporate to multi-bank messaging, essentially for letter of credit guarantees, standby issuance. And then our third prong is certificates of origin, where we essentially can provide, with the largest certificate of origin provider in the world, with 317 chambers in 20 countries. So we've talked about a number of problems with eBoLs. Let's start with reality number 1. Electronic bills of lading are complicated, right? The 3 of us on this phone today represent less than 1% of all bills of lading in the world. And that's despite the fact that none of us are newbies, right? As Gadi said, he's been around for 5 years. essDOCS celebrated our 15th anniversary last week, and Bolero has actually been around for 32 years. So this isn't the simplest problem to solve. But there is a new reality in addition to that, which is that the world has changed. Prior to this pandemic, essDOCS, or our certificate of origin platform, SCERT, would sign up an average of 10 chambers per year. 10 chambers per year, and 1 new country every 2 years. What we've seen in the last few months is we've signed up 54 chambers in just 4 months. So obviously a massive jump, 11 times the normal. We've signed up 5 new countries, 25 times the norm. And I think probably one of the themes that's come out of today is that paperless trading has essentially moved from a nice to have to a must-have solution that allows trade to continue. Dave's mentioned a couple of problems. Steve's mentioned a couple of problems. Let's look at what we think are probably the 4 largest problems. Rules, unique enabled ICC rules, legal validity, the international treaties that deal with paper bills of lading do not allow for electronic, or most of them are the US versions from the 1920s. The rest of the world is typically based on a treaty from the 1970s. Obviously, they weren't forward-thinking enough to allow for electronic. So the international treaties dealing with transfer of title basically don't deal with electronic. Equally, local laws don't yet deal with electronic. This was the model law on electronic transferable records that Dave mentioned, That is a model law to change that. Currently, I think that law has only been enacted in Bahrain. So we've got a little bit of way to go for that to really become a major thing, but Singapore's working hard on it and a number of other countries are too. So how do you solve that? You have a legal framework, and all the three of us have an IG, P&I club approved legal framework, which is the minimum starting point. The next starting point from a bank perspective is you need to ensure that an authorized signatory has signed off on that legal agreement. Because if the person who signed up to the legal agreement wasn't authorized to bind the company, your bill of lading will not be valid, and thus your security will not be valid. So pretty important thing to consider. We've talked about the network. Bills of lading are like a fax machine. If you're the only company in the world with a fax machine, it's not very useful. So you need the network. Whether that's counterparty corporates, counterparty banks, you need that network. Another issue that we've come across a lot is customs. In a lot of countries, customs demand paper originals. In fact, sometimes customs brokers demand paper originals. So it's important to understand what will customs accept. If you're dealing with electronic bills of lading and you go into a country and you cannot provide paper to clear customs, you have a problem. You facilitated the trade transaction from a financial perspective, but obviously not from a physical perspective. Now, all these problems can and have been solved. Dave mentioned that the ICC released EUCP 2.0 and EURC last year. So that was a big step forwards in e-enabling the rule sets. That was the first version of an electronic version of the dot collection rules, for example. Legal validity, as we mentioned, we all have an IG approved legal agreement. But one of the other things that we focus a lot on is ensuring by our in-house legal team that the agreement is validly executed, i.e. executed by someone with authority to bind that organization or group. From a network perspective, we tend to focus on a suite of solutions to allow banks and corporates to digitize at their own pace. And that seems to be pretty successful for us because we've built a pretty large network from it. We also work with a lot of partners, and that is a big part of our approach over the last 2 years. There's an open API that allows third-party platforms to integrate our eBoL solution directly into Contour, which is a bank letter of credit solution set that came out of Voltron, MindHub, who's a trade execution platform that's digitizing the metals and minerals business, VAT, that's led by 7 of the largest oil companies in the world, doing the same for energy. Gateway is a consortium of energy companies and Chinese banks. So by partnering with other people, we expand the network. On the customs side, we have eBoLs already being used in 70 countries, and we're either in trials or talking to customs about outputs that they will accept for another 11. So again, we found workarounds for every one of these problems in terms of building the network, building custom solutions, ensuring the legal validity, and so forth. But so what does it take to get started as a bank? Well, banks are complicated. You have a lot of internal processes. We have a lot of experience of onboarding banks, either at a country level or at a global level. Once you have gone through the various steps, we can actually get you live in a very short time. So the first branch we can get live within a week, and after that we can add new branches within a couple of days. So what are the technical requirements? Essentially, you need internet access. There's no hardware or software to download with our solution. From a setup and onboarding perspective, we'll give you handbooks that will help you as a bank understand everything you could possibly want to know about eBoLs, plus the same for your exporter corporates, plus the same for your importer corporates. So we're going to provide you with all the information you could possibly need. We'll also assist you with all the change management and internal sign-offs, be that security, be that legal, be that process approval. We'll support you through training and through go live with one team, and then we'll continue to support you 24/7, 365 on an ongoing basis. So essentially, we have offices all over the globe to help you with that. So essentially, we look at transitioning to electronic documents as as a project, as Jacko said, this is not a single, I download a piece of software and I'm done forever. And we'll support you through that adoption cycle because it's critically important that this becomes a seamless experience for you and for your corporates. And that's all I have.